Over the past 75 years, more than 10,000 chemicals have entered our food supply, but the EU allows just 300 additives. At Thrive Market, we prioritize quality, banning over 1,000 ingredients found in conventional grocery stores. Our Healthy Swap scanner helps you find better versions of your pantry essentials without the junk, dyes, or fillers, and everything is delivered right to your doorstep. So shop at a grocery store that actually cares about your health at thrivemarket.com/get-started for 30% off your first order and a free $60 gift.
Police, drop everything. Let me see your hands.
This is private property.
No, this is destroying evidence that you paid people to molest children.
We only sell passwords. We don't know what people put on their website.
What are you telling me, lady? That you don't know what the website child.rape's all about?
In New York City, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. These are their stories.
Hey guys, welcome to Munch My Benson. Hopefully that car alarm that was just going off moments ago doesn't keep going off all night while we record this thing. Of course, I am here on the Upper East Side of Manhattan where sometimes that happens. I'm joined on the line by Josh. How are things, Josh?
Things are fine, I guess.
Cool.
Watching some baseball.
Yeah, baseball. Playoffs.
I mean, by the time this fucking episode drops, they'll be over, but
yeah.
Because we're finally banking episodes for like a month out. It feels nice. We're recording this on October 13th, and this will drop on November 22nd. So
Nice.
That's fantastic. It feels nice.
It feels like we're getting the monkey off our backs, that's for sure.
Well,
and then it'll climb back on there.
This is only to get ahead of things while I'm working on a show in November, but
Nice. I finished Mayor of Easttown finally. I have to say, so very good, and there's like a couple good twists in it, and everything matters, right? It's got all the details sew up quite nicely, but for me, it's in a similar bucket as White Lotus, in that I think if this were 20, 25 years ago, these would have been movies. And they would have both been better as movies, I think. You know, like a 2 hour, 15-minute long movie. I think you would have like a tighter plot that would have worked better than, I think Mayor was 7 episodes. And it's very good.
But does that mean that the rimming scene ends up on the cutting room floor in White Lotus?
No. The rimming scene, in my mind, was the climax of the whole series. Because like episode 7 of Mayor, right, it has these big twists that come in, but most of it, and I'm talking like a solid 30 minutes of this episode, were just people standing around crying. There was a lot that could have been cut and trimmed up to make it a little bit tighter. Not that it was bad. It was very, very good. But I just think it's how things have changed in the business, right? That it is easier to get that kind of project made as a 6 or 7 episode series than it is as a film anymore. And I think it's interesting.
Yeah, well, I think TV is the only place where you can get that thing done now.
That mid-budget movie with big-time actors and a decent budget just doesn't exist anymore. It's either like festivals, which I don't know, do festivals even exist anymore? Or
I mean, they do
Marvel.
because I get a bunch of emails about them and how they want me to pay to submit scripts and shit to them.
But it seems to me like, I don't know how long the model of pay to watch festival shit online, how long that sticks around.
Sure.
But it's either that or it's fucking Marvel, so.
Yeah, or fucking Star Wars or whatever dumb established IP.
Exactly. Something that is extremely easy to market.
Or a horror movie.
Yeah. Or a horror movie. So you were really excited about seeing one young actress's performance in Mayor?
Angourie Rice.
Yeah, that's her name. Easily my least favorite part of the whole series. Easily.
Okay.
But it kind of fits into the Josh Dugan milieu, so you might enjoy it more than I did.
Have you seen The Nice Guys?
No, I haven't seen The Nice Guys.
Yeah, you should fix that, because that movie is fucking awesome.
Okay.
I mean, you saw Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's in that sandbox, kind of. It's Shane Black writing and directing.
Cool.
But with Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling.
Oh,
And she
okay.
plays Gosling's kid, but Gosling is like a fuck up PI in the 70s. This is your, this is your wheelhouse. It's fucked up that you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I'll correct that. I'll fix that, Josh. I'll be better, okay?
Okay. I've watched it like 10 times this year.
Nice. 10 times?
Yeah, I'm dead serious. I'll put it on at like 4 a.m. and just watch the whole thing. Like, I intend to fall asleep, and then it's just like, oh, this movie is just too fucking charming. I can't go to bed.
That's a nice segue, because that's what I intended to do with this episode when I put it on TV last night. I was like, I'll just throw it on. Megan was like, you're not going to take notes? I was like, nah, I don't take notes the first time I watch it. Fuck it. Who cares? If I fall asleep, I fall asleep. And I didn't. I was up the whole way through because it throws some curveballs.
Yeah. I believe that Stabler is back from fucking Prague at the 36-minute mark.
Exactly.
There's still a whole act. He gets back before the final act. He has gone to Europe and back. What the fuck?
He's been to Europe, Josh. He's been to Europe.
Now, yeah. So this week we are watching. I realized that like a few episodes ago, I didn't intro the episode at all. I just went into the recap. Nice. So that's fun. I think that's the next one I have to edit. I don't know how I'm going to work around that.
You could always just add a little like awkward audio, just like a little button. Josh, you drinking anything before we jump into this shit?
I'm drinking one of the remaining cans that was pressurized from a 12-pack of like a Surly variety pack. This is the Furious IPA. There were 2 cans that when I pulled them out from the fridge, you could squeeze them, you know?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes that doesn't mean that they're bad, but
it usually means they're flat. Almost every time.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure every time I've ever opened one, the beer was completely flat.
That sucks.
But this one isn't. Whatever.
Yeah.
What are you drinking?
I'm drinking a Montauk Cold Day IPA. It's nice. As the name implies, it's a brewery from Montauk.
From Long Island.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Way the end of Long Island.
Yeah, it's where the terminus of the train is in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yes, exactly. And it's known for its kind of stark vistas of dunes with kind of water on either side. It's where it always ends up coming up somehow. All the actors that were in Pollock end up at one point or another in SVU. I guess not sure Ed Harris does, but everybody else does. And that's where they filmed that. So if you ever watch Pollock, you'll get a lot of fucking pics of Montauk. Or Eternal Sunshine. Better movie.
Much better movie.
Yeah.
So this week we are watching Pandora, which is episode 15 from season 4. A mid-divorce argument couple happen across a woman with her mouth super glued shut, freshly brutalized, raped with a tire iron, and stuffed in her trunk. Evidence at the scene suggests the attacker headed for her home, and when Stabler arrives there, homicide is already on the scene because her husband's skull got caved in and the hard drive was torn from their PC. Homicide Detective Bishop brushes off Stabler with a curt, "I'll call you if I need your help, bro Cephas," before Stabler's phone rings, giving him the bad news that Mrs. McGrath will be joining her husband on the slab alongside him in the morgue. When Munch and Stabler go to Meredith's work to get background on their Vic, her coworker tells them she'd been distracted and had changed her email 7 times over the last year, and that she always worked from her laptop, a laptop which had been recovered from her house during her husband's homicide investigation. Stabler checks back in with Bishop, who proffers, when prodded, that the laptop was sent off to Taru, but that the discs they recovered were chock full of kiddie porn. Taru Morales tells Stabler and Bishop that 2 girls, roughly 8 and 14 years old, were the subjects of the smut Mrs. McGrath possessed, and her chat records lead to someone using the computer lab at Stuyvesant College. But a check with the college establishes that whoever Meredith had been in contact with had just routed their communiques through there. Meredith's whole deal doesn't really add up until it dawns on Stabler that Meredith's behavior is much more in line with that of an FBI informant. Morales says that tracks because upon further investigation, he rooted out a keystroke recording Trojan horse on her computer, likely exposing her work forwarding kiddie porn intel she'd gathered to a .gov email address belonging to Claudia Williams, who Stabler knows all too well because 3 months earlier, he and Benson royally butt-fucked the AUSA's RICO case against a mobster who dropped 260-plus bodies, adding a dozen schmucks, mostly innocent bystanders, to his headcount in the process. AUSA Williams tells Stabler that Meredith was a cyber vigilante who'd served up 5 pedos in the past year to the FBI, and she was hot on the trail of the person posting pics of a 14-year-old girl missing for the past 2 weeks, Mia Van Wagner, one of the 2 girls from the discs in the McGrath household. Visits with Mia's worried mother and KG best friend lead Stabler and Bishop to Mia's online boyfriend. Morales traces this pedo shitbird to the Czech Republic, but the German national grown-ass man of a boyfriend hasn't left the Czech Republic in 8 months, and Mia's passportless. Mia's LUDs lead them to a copy shop where an employee says that the owner brought in the girl in the photo last week, only Mia was, quote, Carrie, and the owner's, quote, daughter. They haul off the owner in cuffs. Bishop starts to get rough with pedo porn stash Ron, and Claudia and Kragen pull him out before she lays the federal crime smackdown on him. He gives up that he helped Mia fraudulently get a passport and helped her get on a plane to Prague, but says he's never heard of Meredith McGrath. Williams passport shames Stabler, but assures him he's going to have one ready for him at JFK in 2 hours when he's wheels up to Prague. Through the magic of green screens, Stabler is transported to Europe, where Europol agent Kate Logan greets him and tells him to strap in for a crazy ride because the Czech Republic is bursting at the seams with dirtbags. Stabler's guy, Eric Tassig, is a serious sex trafficker who dropped off the map 2 years ago after nearly getting nabbed by Interpol and now runs an internet enterprise which they can't yet prove produces and distributes child pornography. Unfortunately, while Stabler was on a red-eye, Czech police raided Tassig's place, and he and Mia flew the coop because that dumbass friend of Mia's tipped them off. Kate Logan takes Stabler on a tour of Teplice, a Czech border town that looks an awful lot like New York, detailing the horrors of child prostitution allowed to flourish in the CR because the parking tickets provide too much revenue for the state. Stabler and Logan head to the public square where a chocolatier says Mia and Eric come every day, so they stand by and wait. Mia arrives only to pick up her tail. A foot chase ensues, and Stabler eventually corrals Mia but allows Eric Tassig to escape. Stabler and Logan work Mia in full denial, telling her she's already been turned out at 14 by the man she thinks she loves, and they've seen her pics he plastered all over the darkest places of the internet. She gives him up. They question Tassig. He gives them the runaround, claiming he's using the kid smut he's producing to root out the real pervs. They're still trying to find the younger girl from Meredith's discs, but Tassig insists on playing dumb, thinking this American cop can't do shit to him. Then Stabler elbows him in the nose. Logan tells the Czech uni that he can leave the room, and she reminds Tassig that they're not in America, so Stabler's got carte blanche to get medieval on his ass. Stabler throat punches Lassig, lifts him up, and slams him down onto the table. Seeing that he's dealing with a man who wants nothing more than to snuff out a skell, Tassig points them to the website from which the pictures have all originated. Stabler returns to New York, where Private Code, the password-providing business for Amy's Little Secret, is located. Stabler and Bishop tag along with the feds to serve the warrant on Private Code. Their records are immaculate and lead them to Nick Touchai's house, where Amy answers the door. Stabler wakes Nick Taylor at the end of the trembling barrel of his gun on his forehead in questioning and against the advice of his counsel, who tells them the interview is over. Taylor tells them that incest and pedophilia are gonna be totally cool one day once society catches up with him and the hundreds of thousands of his fellow creeps, that they're never going away, and that Stabler's entire raison d'etre is pointless. Over beers, Stabler tells Bishop that you've got to hate your job to do it well, and we've got an it takes different strokes to move the world, Dick Wolf.
There was definitely a period when they really loved the pro-pedophilia rant, because this is not the only one we've seen.
Chat room for sure. I feel like there's one other one that I'm forgetting, but chat room definitely has it.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't abuse my daughter.
Yeah, you do. Since before she was able to walk.
So you say.
So your website says, genius.
Well, you killed the McGraths, doesn't it? She knew what you were doing. You had to protect your secret.
She misrepresented herself.
Yeah, pretending to be as disgusting as you.
She betrayed me.
You betrayed your daughter.
I did not. I love Amy more than you'll ever realize. And I'm not going to feel bad just because you're telling me I should.
That's enough. This interview is over, Detective.
Society says I'm wrong. But not long ago, society said interracial marriage was wrong, too. Not long ago, society executed homosexuals.
Did you hear that? That is a classic.
It's a pedophile's justification for why he's not the pervert we know he is.
I used to think I was alone. I'm not. There are hundreds of thousands of people just like me. Maybe millions.
You mean your buddies on the internet? You're right. And you freaks will never be alone in prison.
Ever think that maybe you're the minority? Ever think that maybe you're the freaks? Go ahead. Arrest us. Persecute us. We're not going away. We're not going to play by your rules. And nothing you can do will ever change that.
Man, there's a lot of shit in this one. There's a lot to unpack, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we got Zero Dark Stabler running wild in the Czech Republic.
Yep.
We've got...
Yeah, it's like he's running around with Jessica Chastain or something.
Yeah. We've got like Hot Czech Benson, all kinds of weird shit. I guess we should start where we do with the guests, right? And we've got a few of them, too.
Yeah, I've got so many pages of guest stars. Okay, so we've already talked about Pam Grier.
Yeah.
We talked about her at length in Lunch by Benson episode 66, which was about disappearing acts from season 4, episode 5. Our episode was called 2 Pages About Golden Showers. She is reprising her character as Claudia Williams, so...
No idea why she would agree to work with Stabler on this, because if I were her...
Yeah, don't worry. I've got a note about that. I feel like we've talked about Joel De La Fuente, but I looked back and didn't have him in any notes. So I'm not 100% sure I'm going to cover
I think
him.
we talked about him so early in the show.
Yeah, that it was before. That's my assumption here, but we may have talked about him in Haunted or Blast, but it's also, there's a lot of stuff here that I found that was weird and I was pretty sure I had not seen before. So I'm going to talk about him for a second. He is the middle of 3 boys born to Filipino immigrant parents in New Hartford, New York. He grew up in Evanston, Illinois, and went to North Shore Country Day School in Winnetka, which is where Richard Appel, the Family Guy EP and co-showrunner, Alex Moffat, Pete Wentz, and Richard Marx went to school.
Whoa.
He got a BA in theater arts from Brown and an MFA from Tisch. After just a few TV and film credits, he landed a main role in the new hot shit show from X-Files scribes Glenn Morgan and James Wong, the sci-fi show on Fox called Space Above and Beyond. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I remember him kind of being the comic relief character, and I thought the show was cool as a teenager. It probably doesn't hold up, but De La Fuente did criticize the show under pseudonym in an academic journal, Ethnic and Racial Studies. The bit was about formation of ethnic and racial identities, narratives by young Asian American professionals after his character had betrayed comrades in the Silicate story arc. His quote from the paper: "Whenever I see Asians in military uniform, I cannot help but recall common images of Asians from the Vietnam War and World War II. They were yellow-bellied cowards who took the lives of loyal Americans. They were treacherous and crafty, impossible to gauge. Wang could be seen as all of these stereotypes, I thought. Even though this ignores the fact that the Americans they were killing had invaded their country and napalmed their children, but people tend to leave out the important details." He also, during filming of Space Above and Beyond, he has a scar left from a prop explosion. Wow. So, yeah, he has a scar on his neck. From Space Above and Beyond, he went on to recurring roles on High Incident and 100 Center Street, that Sidney Lumet show we've mentioned a few times now. Then he landed on SVU, where he's been in the 3rd most episodes as a recurring character, one behind O'Halloran and having been passed 4 episodes ago by Noah, though Noah's been played by infant twins and 2 child actors. Mm-hmm. After his run on SVU seems to have come to an end, and I'm wondering if maybe there's a SAG stipulation that once you hit 50 episodes in a recurring role that you get a bump, because both he and Mike Dole got capped out just over 50 episodes. Like it was 52 and 53. So I suspect there's probably something going on there. After he left SVU, he landed in the main cast as Dr. Johan Price on Hemlock Grove, and then as the villainous Chief Inspector Takeshi Kido in The Man in the High Castle. He's also been in The Adjustment Bureau, Julia, Taking Chance, Red Sparrow, Personal Velocity, and Brief Reunion, an indie thriller of which he was the star, and had a ton of guest starring roles on TV shows like ER, New Amsterdam, Manifest, Madam Secretary, Blue Bloods, and Hawaii Five-0. Figured we should probably talk about him since I wasn't entirely sure we had.
I think you might be right. I don't think we've gone through that shit before, so I'm glad you did.
There was a lot there that I did not remember, so better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, and Joel De La Fuente's great.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
We had the Morales-isode.
Exactly.
Whichever one that one was, where he
But I think that was
guy.
very early, so I don't think we were quite as diligent about...
As systematic about things as we are now. So next up, we've got William, don't call me Billy McNamara. Because he's credited as Billy in this, and now he goes by William. So he's playing Detective Sam Bishop. His mother was an interior designer. His dad was a Ford racing driver, but they divorced and he grew up with his mom in Dallas, then LA, then New York for middle and high school. He went to Columbia and studied at the Lee Strasberg Institute. He has 130 acting credits since 1987.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. And almost all of them are bad. But I think most notably is he's in Surviving the Game with Ice-T and Texasville with Sybil Shepherd, where he is playing Jeff Bridges' character's kid. But Surviving the Game, we've talked about quite a bit. Almost an Ice-T star vehicle.
Yeah.
He's like the second billed actor on IMDb for it.
I mean, he was also in Dream a Little Dream.
Yeah, I've got a couple more.
Which I think is an important film.
Sure. Dream a Little Dream, but it's not important for SVU purposes because no one else in Dream a Little Dream, aside from like a weird, I know we've mentioned it once before. I can't remember who was in it, but it was like a really minor part. So he was also in Dream a Little Dream, Copycat, where I believe he's the copycat serial killer, not Harry Connick Jr. He's also in Aspen Extreme, and I figured he must have been one of the leads, but he's not at all. He's also main cast in season 1 of Beggars and Choosers, which was some show about like running a network, if I remember correctly.
McNamara's credits, most of them read like they're from an alternate dimension, right? Like there's a million movies, and I haven't heard of any of them.
He's like the poor man's Michael Paré. I figured all of those producers are like, you know what? We can't get Paré. Let's get William McNamara. So yeah, he's in just a lot of trash.
The stretch in the late 90s, Sweet Jane, the Brill Cream Boys, Glam, The Deli, Stag. It sounds like shit that George and Jerry are going to see in Seinfeld. All of them.
Yeah, maybe it is.
Yeah, seriously. Anyways,
he was in movies that are in other movies.
Yeah.
So we've got Lothar Bluteau up next. He's playing Eric Tassig. He is from Montreal, studied at Montreal Conservatory of Dramatic Arts, and also studied medicine, apparently. Some of this stuff I had to get from weird sources, so...
They could have made him French. That would have worked better.
Yeah, I've got a note about that too. This is his second of 3 SVUs. He's also in 1 Criminal Intent and 1 Trial by Jury. He was the lead in the Bruce Beresford missionary in Canada period film Black Robe that also starred a really young Aiden Young. Like Aiden Young was 19 then. He's the star of Rectify. And then Tantu Cardinal and Sandrine Holt are in it as well. Bluteau was also pretty high up the cast list on I Shot Andy Warhol, Bent, and Orlando. And then he had recurring parts in season 3 of 24, The Tudors, and Vikings. Next up, Alexis. I didn't look up how to say her last name, so I'm going to guess it's Ziena. But it's Dziena. Yeah. She's playing Mia Van Wagner. She was born in New York City, went to St. Anne's School, and was friends with Paz de la Huerta growing up, who we saw back in Chat Room.
Yeah.
She took classes at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. This is her second credit, though she's in like 6 things in 2003. So this is right when she's sort of picking up steam. One of her first roles was as Marcia Gay Harden's oversexed teen in the Lifetime movie She's Too Young, where at 14, her character is peer pressured into blowing some dude, which is a gateway sexual act that leads to a lot more promiscuity. This movie also features Miriam McDonald, Emma from Degrassi, who gets syphilis from her extracurricular activities. This movie is on Tubi. Pretty sure it needs to be watched.
Did you watch this?
No, I really want to.
Oh my God. What? She's Too Young? I got to make a note about
She's Too Young. Yeah. It's on Tubi, and Tubi's free.
Yeah. It sounds outstanding.
I mean, we can't watch it for next week's episode because we know what next week's is, but we should watch it.
Yeah, I'm into that.
I mean, it's a Lifetime movie, so you know it's going to be fun and fucking nuts. I used to put on Lifetime Movie Network at Crown and Anchor when I was closing.
Nice.
Like, I would put it on once sports were done, and no one could be like, oh, why aren't sports on? I just put it on Lifetime Movie Network and put the subtitles on and let everybody at the bar watch that.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Lifetime movies. Did you ever see that weird one with
Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig?
Exactly. And the funny thing about it is that you think it's going to be
made in earnest.
But yeah, it totally is. It's totally a straightforward by the numbers Lifetime film.
They realize that it's going to be crazy enough on its own. So
yeah.
Back to Alexis. She was in Bringing the Rain. She had a super memorable turn in the Jarmusch gem Broken Flowers.
Yeah.
Where her character's name is Lolita, and she's very much wandering around the house fully nude. She's acting like nothing's going on.
16 or 17?
She's 18 here in this episode. She's 20 or 21 there.
Okay.
She was in Havoc, Sex and Breakfast, Fool's Gold, Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, and When in Rome. She was also main cast in Invasion and had a recurring role as E's jealous girlfriend on the vapid, latent misogyny fest Entourage. She's had a tumultuous personal life. After her run on Entourage, she tried to get a restraining order put in place against her parents, who she claimed were trying to murder her for her money.
Ooh.
It was thrown out for lack of evidence. She was also in an on-again, off-again relationship with Michael Pitt from 2000 to 2004, who was also a mess, which we talked about back when we covered Prodigy. Then in 2014, her boyfriend, Jeffrey Francis Osley, who I believe goes by Francis Osley for voiceover work, he had to get a restraining order against her after she threatened to do both of them harm if he broke up with her. She's kind of stopped acting. She hasn't really been in anything since 2016, so I'm not sure what's up with that, but I would assume that maybe there's some issues that she's having to work through.
Yeah, we wish her the best.
No judgment. I know plenty of people whose lives are disasters who are still very good friends of mine. So
yeah.
Next up, we've got Ellen Lancaster, who's playing Mrs. Van Wagner. She was Dr. Di Remigio, the psychiatrist with the insane doll on her desk in Prodigy, which we covered back in Munch My Benson episode 36. He let Ed teabag him, right? So it took us a little while, but we finally got here. This motherfucker's a brain melter.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. I mean, I still have nightmares about that doll on her desk. What is it? Next up, Dagmara Dominchik, who's playing Kate Logan.
Yeah, Euro Benson.
I did this before I watched the episode. This is the first thing I did, and I was going to reorder them, and I realized that Dagmara Dominchik should be way up the list, but she had... On everything, her name was just Kate Logan. I was like, whatever, she must be way down the line because she's like the 15th person listed. Anyway, both of her sisters have appeared in episodes that we've covered. Marika was in Consent as the brunette who dosed Michelle Monaghan, which we covered back in Munch My Benson episode 11. This might be the rapiest bar in New York City. Veronica Dominchik was Claire Grant, the first victim we see interviewed in Street Revenge, which we covered back in Munch My Benson episode 17, Fantastica! She was born in Kielce, Poland.
Good luck with that.
No, I looked up how to pronounce it. Kielce. Nice. Her father was involved in Amnesty International and the Poland Solidarity Movement, and in the 80s, they came to New York as asylum seekers. She went to LaGuardia High School and then studied acting at Carnegie Mellon. She's in the films Keeping the Faith, Rockstar, The Count of Monte Cristo, Kinsey, Running with Scissors, The Immigrant, and The Assistant, which was really good. That's probably the only one of those that I would say is really good, though.
Yeah, I saw Kinsey.
The Assistant was fantastic.
Yeah.
The Kinsey was fine.
It was
whatever.
all right. It wasn't forgettable.
Yeah, I'd rather watch Masters of Sex.
Yeah.
She's main cast in Succession as Carolina, and she's also in the upcoming David Simon series, We Own This City, which is set back in Baltimore.
Nice.
She's been married to Patrick Wilson since 2004, and they have 2 kids together.
Good for them.
I've got 2 left. I'm only including William H. Burns because he makes this a brain melter also. He's playing Uniform Cop number 3. He is a member of policeactors.com, which is for active and retired police officers, which means he plays police officers often.
He sure does.
He's been in SVU 15 fucking times, including Stolen, where he was Uni number 2, which we covered in Munch My Benson 48. I Made This Kid With My Sperm. Juvenile, where he plays narcotics officer, which was covered in Munch My Benson episode 5. Who's the perfect victim for a 90-pound twerp perp? And finally, in Witness, And this is what definitely makes it a brain melter, because he's playing P.O. Sanchez. So he's playing a parole officer here. Mm-hmm. So he was in Munch My Benson episode 46. It sucked that D-bag rape boy was gonna be the last guy to lay pipe in McCallum County.
The thing is, these episodes, I can instantly place them as soon as you tell me our name for them.
Our name,
but,
yep.
Yeah, but I hear their name and I'm like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, stolen. Okay, which one's stolen? Okay,
yeah, it's like
I guess
Witness
that's
is like,
yeah, that's the adoption one. The
right?
Witness one is like, that does not help at all. I mean, that one goes to the fucking Congo, you know?
It sure does. Yeah,
that one is where Cabot leaves the fucking show.
Uh-huh.
Whatever. Last one I had to cut out a lot of people because there are a lot of people in this, and anyone who didn't have something that was super interesting to me got the axe. So last one I have is Ben Bode, who's playing U.S. Customs Attaché Mike Pearson.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm mentioning him is because he was Mitchell Beck, the asshole who wants to turn the indie store into Music Town in Empire Records. So he's the dick who they give the big container of money to at the end.
If I could just tell them that, like,
he's the non-Maxwell Caulfield Rex Manning villain in the movie.
By 2021, both Music Town and Empire Records have both closed, and it's like,
unless Music Town has a really good vinyl scene,
you have to mention
still alive.
Stephen Gevedon. The
no, I don't, because I didn't think any of his credits were interesting. Nick Taylor.
You're not a Smoke guy. You're not a Wang Wang.
Smoke
guy?
is fine, but like, how far down the fucking list is he on Smoke? I haven't seen Smoke in fucking like 20 years.
I know, me neither. I just remember what's his name? Fucking Ghost Dog is just like walking down
Forrest Whitaker.
He's just like walking down a country lane. I remember that scene. Remember Harvey Keitel? Was he like taking photos of an intersection? Anyways, yeah, Wayne Wang. Yeah, nobody else matters. But Stephen Gevedon, very good pedophile. They let
him do some work here. Yep. Their pedo casting is really good.
This was they had like a peak with pedo casting, and it was like early on, right? Like,
yeah, man, they really found
they nailed it. They had 3 potential starring pedos in this episode with the mustache guy from the fucking
Ron Crowley.
Yeah, Ron Crowley, Lothar
Bluto,
the Franco-German medieval typecast guy.
If we've learned anything from this show, couples in New York do not get along. We always open on a couple arguing on the street, only to find a person who is almost always a female, only to find a female who is worse off than the female in the argument. I guess they're supposed to count their blessings that they're not being raped.
That's true. Or having their mouths super glued together, or
Jesus Christ,
tire irons all over their body. I did a lot of research on this scene, Josh, and it actually is going to make me go back and change what I said about a previous episode, because I figured out exactly where they're filming this, and I thought it was a different
Streetwise.
And Streetwise is filmed in the exact same spot. In Streetwise, if you guys remember, Elliot chases the bum messiah guy who jumps onto the back of a truck and gets away. There's an arch. It's kind of a very distinctive metal arches going down. And I thought it was one location, but it's clearly not. It is clearly, and I can't tell you how long it took me to find this, but it was a long time. Over an hour.
Listeners need to know that Adam spent hours doing location research for this episode. Hours.
So this is a short stretch of Riverside Drive over 12th Avenue. So there's a stretch of 12th Avenue that is underneath Riverside Drive, and it's where there's hills. And it's between 129th Street and 135th Street. So it's uptown. It's in Harlem Heights area. Anyways, it is definitely that, and definitely not any other spots. And I'm almost 90. I didn't go back and watch Streetwise, but I'm 90% sure they shot at the exact same spot.
Right. I mean, you have a locations department on a show like this. You know, they have their spots. Because I feel like one of the other scenes was also somewhere we've seen before. Wasn't it in Slaves?
It was. That diner was like the diner that we went to in another one.
Well, no, I was thinking, wasn't the street where the balloon artist in Slaves was? Isn't it the same spot, just dressed differently, that they're shooting at for the town square?
Close, but not the same spot. Okay. Because I found where that was too. So there's a gas station at 131st Street and Broadway, which is a block away from where they were. I don't know exactly which intersection they were at, but it's not a very long stretch. And there's a gas station right there. But what I want to ask you, Josh, is that it begs the question of what they were doing up there. And I think they were probably out on the town seeing a jazz show at the world-famous Cotton Club, which is right underneath Riverside Drive in a triangle that's confusingly formed by 129th and 125th Street right there. But yeah, definitely where she just wanted to get sticky-fingered took place, not... I suppose that it was underneath the Queensboro Bridge on the Queen side, but no, it was this one. I'm 95% sure.
So in the first scene, if Liv's going along with the Vic and the Ambo, that means Hargitay's getting a week off.
Yeah.
She catches a child abuse case in the hospital, but it's an additional case to the one that happens in Tortured, the next episode, which also overlaps with this timeline and has the gaffe of having Stabler present on a day where it's been established he's in Prague.
Interesting.
You got to think that she misses the good old days when Maloney was still around and they got to basically take 5 or 6 weeks off a season.
Seriously?
While still getting your big weekly check for a day or two of work. Because, they're not paid by days. They're paid per episode, I'm sure.
But I imagine that her check is a little bit bigger now than it was back then.
Oh, I know it is for a fact. But you still got to figure that she wishes the situation was still there where she was co-lead and got some more time off. Because if following IA_stories on Instagram has taught anyone anything, working in the industry is fucking terrible.
The hours are not great.
The hours are horrible. I love that we find out nothing about the husband. He is just an inconsequential body because he wasn't raped with a tire iron.
The only reason he exists is so that we get to meet, our little, hot Mike Sandoval of the week, Sam Bishop. The only reason the husband exists.
Mm-hmm. Jumping ahead just a little bit. Because, obviously Stabler and him tie...
Well, Bishop is a complete fucking shithead, man.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy absolutely puts fake plates on his car when he's commuting from New Jersey so he doesn't have to pay the tolls. This guy parks in the bike lane every day, even if he doesn't have to. This guy is a fucking New York Police Department piece of shit.
Yeah.
One of many.
Yeah. Okay. When they're talking to the librarian, her coworker, he says that she was suddenly back to normal at work, but we don't ever really understand
what normal is. Yeah.
But all of this time she's distracted and doing all of this other work because she's obviously chasing down people. But it doesn't seem like her mission isn't she's not taking the foot off the gas. It just, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't want to be a dick or anything, but isn't part of your job as a librarian just kind of sitting there at the desk pretending?
That's why you get a job as a librarian.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I think it's weird they don't have computers at work though. She's a librarian and she doesn't have a computer to use at work.
Usually you got one right
she has to bring her laptop in?
Of course. This is 2003.
If you work on a movie, sure. I had office jobs in 2003. They provide you with a computer.
It's not that the job didn't provide you with a computer. It's that the people that work on SVU didn't know how computers worked in 2003.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they were still having to send off the scripts to a Mimeo service.
I mean, how many episodes does Morales have to explain what the internet is? Which he does in this episode.
Today. IP.
So that library, they say it's at 482 Columbus. That would be at 83rd and Columbus.
Have they renamed Columbus yet?
No, it's still Columbus Avenue. They still celebrate Columbus Day with aplomb here because it is basically Italian-American Day. And as many people have pointed out, he didn't speak Italian. He spoke Ligurian. Italian didn't exist for hundreds of years after this as a real language. He was a fucking piece of shit. There's plenty of other Italians that you could hang your hat on that aren't that fucking guy.
If listeners aren't aware, we're recording 2 straight episodes within 2 days of Columbus Day. So that's why Adam's so worked up because he's seen parades and is not feeling good about it.
I haven't, but I do feel bad about it. But a block away from there at 82nd in Amsterdam, there is a New York Public Library. It's called St. Agnes. I read some of the reviews. One said generally quiet unless a children's reading group is present. And another said very dirty library and unhelpful staff. So there you go. Sounds like a library.
By very dirty library, do they mean there are more homeless people jerking off to porn than normal?
I just sometimes think that people don't actually understand what the library is primarily used for, which is homeless
masturbate. It's a masturbatorium. Yeah.
I know at the old the H.J. Falk Central Library in Austin, which is no longer exists, but there was special computer screens so that you couldn't see what people were looking at, so that they could be looking at porn essentially.
To save everyone else from it.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna happen. They're gonna find a way.
And you know, as is their right. You know, every other American gets to look at porn in the sanctity of their own home. And so they have their own special space.
Yeah, it's not like they have a phone or
so kids, if you're listening to our episode
Wi-Fi.
and you're at the library computer center, stare straight ahead. Look at your screen and nothing else. I did really like the boss, though. He had some really funny lines.
Everybody here loved Meredith.
Anybody love her in private?
What, like an affair? No. At least not with anybody here.
How do you know?
Well, 80% of the department is female, and I don't think her door swung both ways. The guys, not to be a jerk, but I doubt she'd risk her marriage on any of them.
I like that.
Okay, why would Nick Too Shy, why would his email be at a made-up domain?
This is classic SVU, man. We haven't been living in this space in a while. We've been on the...
I know. I think it's just shocking because we've been stuck in like season 16 and beyond. It's weird when you go back to this world where the writers don't understand how the internet works. And,
at all.
And I mean, to be fair, most people didn't understand how the internet worked then either.
But so like Morales is freaking out over a CD-ROM like that's full of kiddie porn that has quote unquote more than 50 images on it, which is like, that's not very much.
Well, no, that was her hard drive.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the CD-ROM.
No, the CD-ROMs had, because those, Bishop had them, and those had over 200 images. Each disc had over 200 images, and it's like, what was the memory size on those CD-ROMs? Like,
not very much.
And you know, it's 2003, like those images.
Even then, Josh.
Just image-wise, they're
even
not
then,
that big.
You get a fucking RAW file that's like a very big file. You can fit a lot of them on a CD-ROM, like a whole bunch.
Yep.
How many songs could you fit on a CD-ROM? You could fit like an hour and a half almost of music on a CD-ROM.
Well, that's if you're doing it to play on a CD player instead of just the data files. Data files you could fit more on.
Yeah, exactly.
Data files you're looking at more like 200.
Yeah, I remember my time making CD mixes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So, really twisted stuff, he also says. And of course, because it's SVU, it's the two different girls just kind of like not even, they can't show us
like the
twisted
second
shit,
unit photos of Alexis Zena were more suggestive and, more problematic. The little girl ones, thankfully, that we saw were not.
We've seen much more problematic second unit work. I was honestly a little disappointed. We've seen
I was very relieved with Amy. I was very relieved that we didn't get more than we got with Amy. I wouldn't want that little girl having to do the photo shoot that would normally have happened on this show.
Do you think that her parents told her what the show is actually about afterwards?
Fuck no. No way. She was mercifully insulated from what the rest of the show was. They made sure that her lines just answer the door and kind of be dead-eyed. That was her direction. That was what she received.
Oh, yeah.
So Stabler figures out their initial read of Meredith's behavior doesn't make sense because initially, of course, they think that she's peddling kiddie porn.
Yeah, exactly. Which doesn't, I don't know, it seems a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if she were, that would be interesting. We've definitely seen older women who are banging 17-year-olds or something. Or 15, I guess.
That's a classic trope. Like the high school English teacher gets pregnant from her 15-year-old, sophomore student kind of thing.
Yeah, but we're not used to seeing a female pedo.
Is there a nabla as opposed to nambla? Is there a...
Nabla. Okay, so then we get the Claudia Williams connect. Then Stabler blusters in.
You're missing one of the best lines in the whole thing. They're at the squad room, and Bishop's sitting in Benson's chair. And he sees a picture of Benson with Selena, and he goes, "Oh, your partner, does she date?" And it's not like a particularly hot photo of Liv either, which is kind of funny, but because it's season 4 Liv.
Well, what kind of photo would Liv have on her desk that made her look hot? Of herself. Just
that'd
be super weird.
But I imagine it's SVU. They just have a picture of her headshot. That's we've seen this many times.
Yeah.
But your partner, does she date? And he's like, a lot of guys.
I think it's mostly to scare him off because he's such a dipshit.
100%. That guy's a piece of shit. So yeah, we get to Claudia Williams.
Yeah, Stabler blusters in and pulls the very same bullshit that blew up Claudia's RICO case. And he's like, I don't care about your shit. Give me what you got. Like, what the fuck, dude? This is seriously 3 months later and you haven't learned a fucking thing. It's fucked up.
Well, and Claudia Williams is still willing to take your phone calls.
Shocking. She should be telling him to get the fuck out of her office. He's going to blow up another case of hers. To be fair, he does actually deliver a fuckload of pedos to her. But this is not the way to approach this case here. She even gets him a goddamn, like, super special expedited passport.
Yeah, she does. I didn't know they could do that.
Yeah.
Must be nice.
So they go to Mia's mom, and she says her daughter can't have the internet. This is 2 sets of parents of real-life friend actors who forbade their children from interneting only to have them go behind their backs and be preyed upon by pedos.
Maybe these parents should have taught their kids responsible internet use, right?
See, I thought you were going to go one of 2 ways here. I thought you were going to say, teach their children well.
That's what I'm saying.
That parents just don't understand.
Maybe a little
I
both.
thought for sure you're going one of those 2 directions.
A little of both, you know, Josh? You know, when you think about it. Stabler tells her, you don't need to see the pictures. If it were my daughter, I wouldn't want those images in my head. Yeah, I mean, he could have showed her the
he's right.
anodyne stuff. I mean, it was pretty anodyne, but yeah. You don't want to see that shit.
Your mind is only going to race. Once you have like a starting point, if you've been on the internet, you know where that shit's going.
Oh, yeah. There's somebody's asshole is being gaped.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's total goatsy. God damn it. I'm not putting that in the episode title. Nope. Pass. That'll get flagged by something. All right, so they go to visit what's-her-fuck Samantha, the shitbird friend, who thinks that fucking Mia's got her shit together and really is in love. And then Bishop, he shows her pictures and is like, this is what's going on with Mia and her boyfriend.
Yeah.
And then Stabler tries to tell Bishop that he shouldn't have traumatized Samantha with those pics, but it clearly didn't scare her because that kid still turned and told Mia that the cops were looking into her raper boyfriend. So fuck her.
Yeah, well, you can't show that shit to teens. I mean, you can't. Bishop needs to, just stay in his fucking lane.
He needs a class about, well, can you show people child pornography? Because remember when Barba told Carisi that just by showing him that image from his iPad, that he could go to jail?
Yeah, maybe, let the guy who has to deal with fucking kid shit all the time deal with the kids.
Yeah, your victims are all dead.
I understand that AUSAs are not exactly the same thing as the FBI, but they work very closely together.
Yeah, the Department of Justice, yeah.
Their offices are in the same building in every city, right? So the AUSA office is here, and you got the FBI office there.
Except for in D.C., I'm sure. Because D.C., the bureau would be in the J. Edgar Hoover building, and I think the AUSA would have their own. But every other city in the country,
but they work very closely with each other. Are you trying to tell me that the FBI doesn't have somebody that can talk to kids that have been sex trafficked? Somebody who has a passport, who is probably better qualified and less likely to commit torture when they're overseas? Or at least could we have done this episode 2 years later so we could have done a Mandy Patinkin Criminal Minds crossover episode and had both of them go to Prague? Because that would have been fucking lit, man.
But Mandy Patinkin as a Puerto Rican.
Mandy Patinkin as a naked Puerto Rican singing the Ronnie Dobbs musical song. Yeah. That's what I want.
We find out Eric Tassig is a German national. Yeah. Because it's always a German. Or Florida man.
It's a German national with a very French accent.
Oh, yeah. Once he opens his mouth, it's like, what part of Germany is Montreal in?
I mean, maybe he's Alsatian or something.
Yeah, he could be Alsatian, I guess.
Or from Strasbourg or something. I don't know.
Is Strasbourg not in Alsace-Lorraine?
I think it is. I can't remember which one is Alsace and which one is Lorraine, but yeah, it's one of the two.
I thought Alsace-Lorraine was one state.
It is one state, but they are separate regions within the state. They are different things. If I recall correctly, Alsace is the more northerly part of the province, and Lorraine is the more southerly part, but I could be wrong about that.
Strasbourg's in Alsace. I'm going to get a beer.
Nice. Is your beer flat?
No, I still have beers that were not.
Nice.
This one, I'm now drinking a Surly Sonic Distortion, which is a dry hopped tart ale. What are you drinking? Still the
same shit. Yeah, I just got a 6-pack. They had it at Dwayne Reed downstairs, so
word.
I was out of beer and didn't feel like walking more than 20 steps from my door, so I went there.
So the instant you see Ron Crowley,
the copy shop. I think it's the same fucking copy shop that we went to in the Stephen Ray episode. Remember there was a colorful copy shop there, and I think it was.
I don't think so, but it could be, I guess.
Anyways,
because I think that was the production office.
I think this could have been too.
Honestly, I think no. I mean, I'm saying I think this was the production office.
Yeah,
I don't know about the quick shop or whatever, but this feels like they shot in the production office.
Yeah, I think this one they just made sure to have a copy machine there.
Well, yeah. They just need one, so it was just a shot where the printer is in the PO. Because there's nothing that distinguishes that as a business. You see two people. You don't see a point of sale machine at all.
No.
You see nothing. Like, it's really just, okay, if we frame this tight enough, we can save on a location and just shoot in the PO, right?
You certainly don't see a window because there isn't one.
No. Production staff doesn't get to see the outside. They are going to be inside, chained to their desks. They'll get lunch brought to them, so one of the production staff will get to leave, but everybody else will get to sit at their desk eating lunch, sadly.
So this guy has extreme pedo vibes, is what I would say.
Oh, yeah, that mustache.
Disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, the casting agent is fucking doing the work.
But doing too much work because we're burning through these, like, what?
We're burning through pedos.
Because, like, there are 3 really solid pedos.
Creepy pedos in this, yeah. Do you think Stabler seeing someone else commit light police brutality is weird to him? Of course, he's thinking, that's all Bishop's got? Wait till I get to Prague.
Yeah, exactly. Wait till they let me free.
He is unchained in this one, and...
Is Stabler unchained? Yeah. I mean, I think it's Zero Dark Stabler, and he really fucking goes off on that dude.
Yep.
But after he's been given the
throat
go-ahead...
punches... Wait, I don't want to go there yet. I want to get there as we go through the episode. But, man.
Yeah. I love the little exchange with that guy in when they're interrogating him. I'll show you mine if you show me yours, kind of right before Bishop starts fucking him up.
Mm-hmm.
And then Stabler gets to go to Prague.
Yep.
Gets an expedited passport. He's going over. We didn't get to see him drinking.
It seems insane that this all took 2 hours. Yeah. That in 2 hours he was going to be at JFK.
If I recall, he lives like in somewhere out in Queens
I thought he lived in Queens too.
I think he lives like pretty far out in Queens. So we're talking about 30 minutes to an hour depending on traffic from the precinct to get to his house.
Well, he can just let the cherries spin the whole time, right?
It's true.
Will they let him do that?
Let them? That's what they do.
Okay.
Have I ever seen a cop like stopped waiting for the light to change? No. No. Okay, so let's say a half an hour to get home.
Is he going to have a police escort to take him to the airport too to make that flight?
Yeah, but then he needs like at least 15 minutes to get packed, right? I mean, he's going over to Prague. He needs to look his best.
He doesn't know how long he's going to be there.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't know how European clothes fit him.
No.
So the sizes are different.
They are different.
I mean, with his bod... Whatever, you can always wear something a little tight. Maybe he'll split the ass, but he'll just be painted into clothes. It's fine.
You can get away with that over there, I think.
He definitely can.
Yeah,
motherfucker's cut.
Nowadays, he sure is. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But still, we're talking like at least an hour and a half just to get from the precinct to the airport without stopping to like tell his kids why he's abandoning him yet again for like a week. You know?
Yeah.
So what do you think he's excited about most going to Prague? That weed is essentially decriminalized, that he can drink like real absinthe with wormwood in it? Or do you think he's really excited about checking out the Sex Machines Museum, Josh? Because I bet that's where he's going.
Sex Machines.
Yeah. He's going to the Sex Machines Museum. You see the fucking clock. They got a good-ass clock in Prague. And that happens. I've been to Prague.
I believe they shot season 1 of Patriot, the season that it's supposed to be in Luxembourg. I think they shot that in Prague, too.
No, The Patriot. They filmed that in, like, Virginia or something.
Patriot.
No, Prague is
Not standing for that, Adam.
So Stabler goes to Prague. Now, one problem is we see one shot of Prague, supposedly.
That's green screened. The green screen looks good, though.
It's not bad. It's not,
you know what it looks better than? Havana.
It looks a lot better
in season 19.
The view that we are seeing with Stabler getting out of the car, supposedly at the U.S. Embassy, is actually a view kind of towards where the U.S. Embassy is. The U.S. Embassy is in the Malastrana, which is on the side where the castle is. So there's a famous castle in Prague. It's actually where Kafka grew up in a tiny little house inside the castle. The castle is where both defenestrations of Prague took place. It is a great site to go check out.
Wait,
I highly recommend it.
Prague was thrown out of a window?
No, well, both people were thrown out of windows in Prague twice.
Because when you say the defenestration of Prague, that makes it sound like Prague was thrown through a window.
I understand what you're saying, but in the history of the 30 Years' War, the event which sparked this sort of crisis was called the Second Defenestration of Prague. And yes, no, Prague was not thrown out of the window, but an emissary from the Holy Roman Emperor was thrown out of the window.
Because that phrasing is ambiguous.
I understand that. Maybe it makes more sense in like German or Latin or something, but that's what they call it. And it's great. I love that you can go and see the window and you can see where he fell. One of the guys, I forget which defenestration, but one of them survived because he was thrown into a massive pile of horse manure.
I was going to guess shit.
Yeah.
I was totally going to guess that there was shit that he was thrown into.
And the Catholics considered it a miracle that he survived.
Fantastic.
Anyways, so the view we're seeing...
You landed in a mountain of shit. It's a miracle.
Exactly. So the view we're seeing one of the like three most famous things in Prague. I'm sorry, there's very loud shit outside my window. I apologize. So the three most famous things in Prague, you got the clock, you got the castle, and you got the Charles Bridge, the Karlovy Most. And that's what we're seeing in the background where Stabler's getting out of the car. It's an old-ass bridge. It's very famous. It's nice to walk across. But because of the view of the bridge, I can basically tell where they're shooting it from. And they have to be shooting it from something called the Bedřich Smetana Museum, which I guess is dedicated to a composer that I'm not familiar with. But it's got the right sightline. So that's why they got a photo of that and used it for the green screen. Anyways, Prague is a wonderful place. And I highly recommend people going there. I was kind of going back through my trip down memory lane because I visited Prague twice, kind of back in that era, 2001 to 2003. And one of the times I went there was like 1998 or something because there was, God damn, how young was I? But there was graffiti about the Kosovo War, I remember seeing. There were like Serbians who were around there. Anyways, I don't know how I was able to navigate around a winding medieval European city in the eras before.
I'm sure you had some dumb guidebook like everyone who traveled in Europe did then.
I must have had a map, but most of the time I just kind of figured it out somehow. I just wandered around. Anyways, it's a wonderful place. Highly recommend it. They were shooting from the old town in Prague, which is... I just had it open and I fucking lost it. God damn it.
Check your history, bro.
Yeah, god damn. It doesn't matter. Anyways, they're looking over the Vltava, which is the river that flows through Prague that eventually flows to the Elbe and then out to the sea. So there's something going on with homegirl, Dagmara. Like she's got a limp or something, which I really wish I had more information about.
She probably just wasn't comfortable running in heels.
But she was like struggling... while they were just like walking in the U.S. Embassy, the quote unquote U.S. Embassy. Maybe I'm crazy, but that's what I saw. I saw somebody that did not look comfortable walking in those like weird thigh high boots that she was wearing.
You know, it's too bad Maloney didn't get to go to Prague for real. Like, it's too bad for him. It's too bad for us.
Yeah, I think he would have loved it.
Because this is sort of how Bucharest doesn't look like New York in High Strung, which is a really terrible movie that they did on How This Get Made, where there's like subway scenes and shit, and it's like, oh, you know what that isn't?
The New York City subway.
The subway New York.
Prague has a really cool subway, but...
New York does not look like Prague.
Well, you know what New York looks even less like? Tbilisi, Czech Republic, which is the other town they go to. And in Tbilisi, I really want to know was it just utter laziness, or did they ask somebody to measure the stop signs in the West Village in New York City, and they measured the wrong dimension? So they didn't measure point to point on the octagonal stop signs. They measured like whatever the
width. Just the width.
Exactly. Which is, I think, what they did. I think they measured the width.
Yep.
And
I'm almost positive that's what they did.
because so what Josh and I are talking about, they are European style, like street signs, the kind of blue circle with the red kind of boundary and cross. And they do not look like they were made by somebody making street signs. They look like they were drawn by a high school student on some poster board. And they do not actually cover the stop signs that they are on top of.
No. They figured out what the width and height of a stop sign were. And we're like, okay, well, if I do a circle from here to here, but that means that all the points on a regular stop sign are then poking out because they didn't do it point to point, which is going to be a little wider.
Which you could say, sure, maybe you wouldn't notice that if you're just watching it. Josh, it was all I could see the first time I was watching it. It's the only thing I could see.
Yeah. Like, oh, okay. I mean, I can already tell this is New York, but the stop signs, come on. I can see the points on them.
Yeah, so we're talking about a street. It's West Village, certainly. I think it was Leroy Street or Minetta. I'm not 100% sure on the street. I spent my my time budget tracking down some other streets in New York, so I didn't actually look at every single street in the West Village to figure out. And also, they've changed in the intervening 18 years. But to police the real town that they go to looks pretty nice. It is like reasonably close to the German border.
Well, I mean, it's because of the parking tickets. That's how the city's able to be so nice.
I mean, apparently they get parking tickets from Germans crossing the border to...
And there's just too much fucking money in it.
There's
too much money in the parking ticket racket that the Czech police have to turn the other way whenever they see German pedos, of which there are literally billions.
Apparently. Especially when they're coming from the French border where they have distinctly Quebecois accents.
Yeah. Like, the French would be pissed. He wouldn't pass for them either.
I know, it's true.
Logan's lesson about the child sex trade.
It's baffling to me.
It's just, let's take Stabler to a border town, to their red light district that caters to German pedos.
That is a very
and have him see little girls turning tricks on the street, which defeats the purpose of the colored shades that she's talking about. Like, the colored shades are meant to, like, say that you're going inside. They wouldn't have little kids turning tricks out on the street.
There's only so many colors of shades that you can have in your windows, Josh. And these curtains indicated very specific sexual predilections.
Pink and baby blue.
So this street is only dedicated to child sex trafficking. Is there another street in Tbilisi where you can get some, like, bondage work done? Is there one where you can traffic in, I don't know, body mod?
Callbacks.
Yeah, like, can I find some one-legged women there?
Yeah. Can we get in some cold Carl business? So, like, right after this, Kate Logan went and got a job at Wayfair, right? Like, if you can't beat them, ship them in furniture.
Sure, I don't know that Wayfair existed then, but it should have. I mean, it's
she probably started it.
Yeah, it's a good concept. But, like, okay, so you can have a child under the age of 10 for 30 minutes. That's what you know from a pink curtain.
Oh, I thought you were talking about SAG rules for a second.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Speaking of which, I might try to start getting the dog and the kid extra work.
You should.
You know, I've got a line on that.
You found a background or central casting or whatever there?
Yeah, friend of the pod, Sean McGrath, no relation to the woman who was raped with a tire iron at the beginning of this show.
Yeah. I mean, I just saw him 3 days ago. But he sent you a background company's info?
Yeah, he sent me a couple of them, yeah. So I'm going to go check them out. So they go to this, like, square just around the corner. And it's not just around the corner. Of course, we were shooting in the West Village, below 8th Street. It's one of a handful of streets that it could be.
But it's just around the corner in Prague.
It's just around in Tbilisi, Josh. But they go to the main
No, they go back to Prague.
No, but she said, "Oh, come this way."
They go to Tbilisi, but then I think they come back to Prague.
I thought that was just around the corner in Tbilisi.
Because they don't have any reason to believe that she's in Tbilisi. She's just showing
They're
him.
just going to Tbilisi because there isn't a verified sex trade in Prague. Not that I've experienced, but that another friend of the show has most certainly experienced.
Yes.
Around this time.
Yeah, God damn it. I really wish we could have him on the show to talk about that because it's one of the best stories I think I've ever heard. It's so fucking funny.
It's fantastic.
And he tells it very well.
Yeah. It's a fantastic story. Anyway, so they took a 3-hour jaunt just to walk around and get, Stabler feeling bad.
We do have another friend who very specifically went to the Czech Republic and Prague. Maybe friend is using the term loosely.
Yeah, I think friend is using the term loosely.
Former boss. Yeah. Former boss who ended up in the clink for possession of child pornography for 8 years?
Did he mention Prague as one of his destinations?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah,
he absolutely did, because I remember him telling me that he went to Prague.
Yeah, well, and the way he said, I've been to Cuba. I've been to Russia. There was an implication. We didn't exactly know what the implication was, but then we found out.
I was pretty sure it was sex tourism.
Yeah.
Before he was nabbed, I called him everybody's favorite sex tourist.
This is a good segue. We can plug the episode of our friend Fuck My Work Life podcast that we appeared on, where we go into fairly good detail about this incident.
You should listen to that if you haven't already. Fuck My Work Life pod. You can find them on social media at FMWL pod. So it's kind of hard to search for the podcast because you have to insert asterisks in for the U and the C and fuck to find them. One of the hazards of including the F word in your podcast name.
But good on them.
Which they would surely laugh about in retrospect.
Powering through it,
Yeah.
So regardless of whether it's in Tbilisi or Prague, because I don't remember, but they go to this square that has a big statue. And I found out where that square was. It is obviously not in Prague or anywhere in the Czech Republic. It is at the Audubon Terrace, which is part of Boricua College. It's at Broadway and 155th Street. That statue, which of course is hard to search for equestrian statue in New York City, because of course it being post 2020 when people started ripping down statues, there's a statue of Teddy Roosevelt by the Natural History Museum that is absurdly racist. Hopefully it will be done away with. He's on horseback.
He's in blackface?
No. On one side, he's got an African tribesman walking alongside him. And on the other side, he's got a Native American, in full gear walking alongside him. And it's insanely racist because he's, leading them to civilization is kind of the implication of this statue. And of course, many people want it to be done away with, and I fully understand that. But it means that it's been in the news a lot over the last year and a half, 2 years. So it's very difficult.
Sure. So every hit that you have,
try to do an image search of New York City equestrian statue, and it's a long time before you get to a statue of El Cid, the Spanish crusader of lore, which is the statue that we are looking at there. And you can kind of tell the giveaways if you paused right when they're looking at that statue. You can see up on the plinth or something, the top of the building there, you can see names of various Spanish crusader types. You can see De Soto and Cortez and Cabeza de Vaca and Pizarro written there. And that's how it's a giveaway that it's the Audubon Terrace, which is over there. So lots of inscriptions about various thugs, castaways, and genocidaires on that building.
Good times.
But it looks pretty.
Good times. Let's memorialize all the monsters.
Yeah. Cabeza de Vaca was cool. He was all right.
Yeah.
On the scale of that.
Okay, in this public square scene, there are so many fucking background actors.
So many people. It's
that day, the AD department was having to wrangle 400 fucking background actors. That is fucking nuts. I've had to wrangle, I think the most I was doing it solo and I had 60.
It's an uncomfortable amount of people.
Herding fucking cats.
So it looks like we're in a farmer's market, right? There's a normal amount of people to have at a farmer's market. And it's half that many people.
Yeah.
That was
for sure.
Lot of fucking people. It was packed, man.
The art department and set deck work that had to go into the scene too, to dress this space, because this is an outdoor space that they're not going to really have access to until maybe the night before, starting at 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. or something, and they can work overnight to dress that. But that's a lot of fucking work that went into that.
You can tell that
almost all of it is covered by random fucking background actors. So all of this work is, I don't know, is it dressing it up enough?
I don't know.
To make it not still look like New York? Because I sure felt like it was New York the whole time.
At first I thought it was the Met. I was like, that's the fucking Met. They're just right next to it. But no, yeah, it did sure as hell feel like New York. But, what are you going to do? They don't have the budget to go film in Prague, Josh.
Oh, yeah, I don't...
They don't have to set
I understand the limitations, but they don't need to set it in Prague.
No, they don't.
You know where they could have set it? Berlin.
Actually, Berlin would have worked a lot better as New York. But yeah.
There are parts of New York that it could at least pass for Berlin, not Prague.
Yeah. New York has kind of a medieval neighborhood. It's just been completely destroyed and replaced by glass towers in the financial district.
And Starbucks.
Exactly.
Now, the foot chase happens in the least Prague neighborhood ever.
Well, the foot chase goes a long ways because it starts at 155th Street and it ends below 8th Street. That's a fucking long run.
They ran for 150 blocks. Fantastic. Oh, fuck. All right, so he catches Mia, and then, Jesus Christ, we're at an hour and a half. This one's going to be a motherfucker to edit.
Yeah. Sorry, Josh.
So long. He strung her out, apparently. We only see it for a flash, but it seems like there's way more than the work of a couple of weeks of heroin use on the track marks on her arm. Like, she looks like a second act of Requiem for a Dream.
No shit, man. Yeah, like, her flesh is necrotizing.
2 weeks.
I mean, you start, with your cute underage pedophile star. You start between the toes, right? That's where I would start. Behind the ear?
Maybe.
Can't you shoot up behind the ear? I think that's the thing. I don't know. Moving on.
I'm not fucking with that. Yeah, moving on. I love that she thought that her pics wouldn't end up on the internet.
What did she think she was doing? There's kind of a lurid description of how many different sex acts she's involved in. And
with how many different partners.
And we see Eric Tossig's setup. He's got a lot of lights. So I imagine it's going somewhere.
So she eventually gives him up and they find him in his weird subterranean lair. That's probably the only part, that and where they're questioning him, the only parts that I thought were believably the Czech Republic.
The thing is, they could have done interiors here that would look a lot like interiors in Prague. But the exteriors, it's just not happening.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe in Boston, but no.
Yeah, they should have just green screened everything. But
exactly, yeah.
I love that he tries to pivot to some cockamamie story about trying to root out pervs.
I mean, what are you going to do? He was kind of playing with them, right? He was laughing at them like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, but he clearly doesn't appreciate that he's unleashing the beast here. He's still seated, and Stabler fucking back elbows him in the face. So his nose is bleeding, he's on the ground. Stabler picks him up, fucking throat punches him, gives him a big fucking punch to the gut, then takes him, lifts him up, while he's throwing him, hits his head on the light bulb that's hanging from the ceiling, and fucking slams him on the table. It is crazy. He straight up lifts the dude 3 feet off the ground before slamming him into the table.
It's like a full-on suplex. And you'd think with this kind of outburst from Elliot's character, which, we've seen this kind of Elliot towing this line.
I don't know about
We haven't seen him do this, but we've seen him think about this, but something pulls him back. It's interesting to me that they just kind of forgot that this incident happened later on, right? When Elliot is contemplating doing police brutality. I mean, I guess it's the Czech Republic, and you can rendition people into a dark hole and beat the shit out of them, but
what happens in Czechia stays in Czechia.
I guess, man.
It's really weird that they changed the name to me. It's Czechia since 2016.
Weird. In English, yeah, it is Czechia. Jesus, when did that happen? When is that, man?
Yeah, 2016.
So strange. It should just be Bohemia. Go back to the old days, man.
Yeah. Keep it real. Keep it old school. The ambassador is totally going to keep using that password, right?
What, the...
Maybe not to the Pedos sites, but there are other sites.
Oh, there's tons of sites. We don't even know all the sites. The only one we hear about is child.rape.
Yeah. I mean, that was hilarious to me. I'm pretty sure that .rape isn't a domain, isn't a possible...
I think you can make any domain now, though. I mean, we could probably do a munch my Benson or something like that, if we wanted to.
But you couldn't then.
No, you couldn't then. But the creators of this episode came up with some fun ones. First off, I always love it when they bust old rich white people. That was a satisfying scene for me.
Yeah, this is private property. Hey, motherfucker, do you know how a fucking warrant works?
Do you see 30 cops raiding your house right now? Yeah.
oh, this is private property, as he's trying to shred documents.
But we see a few of the emails from various pedophiles. We see Fen at popmails.net, which is a good one. We see Gino at wiremail.biz. So that's our second wiremail.biz account. And then we say JJ at mailscape.cc.
So then we get Nicholas Taylor, who's Nick Too Shy.
He's too shy. Hush, hush, eye to eye, Josh.
God damn it. So I guess we assume that Meredith had already figured out he's in New York, Nick Taylor, because otherwise it's really coincidental that he would also be in New York and be Stabler's collar.
I mean, yes, it would be. It would be very coincidental, considering this is supposedly a worldwide web.
Yeah, because they're nabbing tons of people. Like, when he gets back to the federal building, the operation that is underway, like, fully from his work, is fucking 40 people running around this office hectically, frantically, like, trying to like coordinate all of the people that they're taking down.
Yeah. What they did is they made all the office people show up in suits that day, right? And they made them run around, do the work they normally do, just look more frantic.
Yeah, it's cool though. You'll get like we'll have ice cream sandwiches brought to the office.
But we're talking about a worldwide web of pedos, right? That's essentially what the internet is built on. It's not communicating between colleges. It's fucking pedophiles sharing their shit. And Elliot has busted a big chunk of that. And so I understand why he's proud of himself.
It's kind of heartbreaking when Dead-Eyed Amy opens the door.
Yeah.
If this was Czechia, Stabler pulls the trigger, right?
I mean, back in 2003 he does. I don't think you can get away with that now that the EU's in town. But back then. Now, we get, of course, the classic early season pedo treatise that's read to us. So what I want to know, do they subscribe to NAMBLA literature? Like, they have very specific verbiage that they're using. It all seems like it's very well thought out. You ever think that maybe you're the minority, that you're the freaks?
Oh, like, does this motherfucker know how numbers work? You really think that there are more than, are we at 9 billion yet, or still 8 in the 8 billions?
I mean, something like that, yeah.
So do you really think that there are 4 billion pedos? That's fucking insanity.
Or maybe he's just thinking of a very specific cross-section. So Elliot is an Irish Catholic cop from the Northeast. You know, he's in the minority probably compared to pedophiles online.
This is all coming after saying that we are legion.
So there are millions of us. Oh, Jesus Christ.
You ever think you're I mean, he has a fundamental misunderstanding of what majority and minority means.
Yeah.
And there's just no reality in which the majority of people want to fuck children.
Yeah,
because that is what he is arguing.
It's the Tobias Funke, there are dozens of us meme is what it is.
There are dozens of those never nudes. Then we get the fucking scene of the bar.
Yeah, and Elliot says his kids are why he does this job. And honestly, he kind of screwed the pooch on that. So maybe he should have quit his job by season 6 or 7 and spend some time with his kids, because kind of fucked them up.
Because Kathleen's working a pole.
Okay. Kathleen's swinging from a pole, and fucking Dickie's in the military. What did he want to do? He wanted to join the military, and then we never heard from him again, right? Mm-hmm. Which Elliot is a Marine Corps veteran, if I'm not mistaken, and he was really hell-bent against Dickie joining the military.
I think we're through, right?
That's all I've got, Josh. Let us rank this as quickly as possible. So we rank these episodes every week. We go through a rigorous 4 criteria, 10-point scale. We're trying to come up with a composite score so we can fit it next to all the other episodes of the show that we will eventually have watched. So we rank the quality, the guess, how problematic it was, and the depth and breadth of lives ruined. So let's go back to front this time. Let's mix it up. So depth and breadth of lives ruined. Obviously, we have a few kids that are gonna need some unpacking in therapy because of the fucked up, weird experiences they've gone through from older men that they thought were looking out for their best interests, who were clearly not. So that definitely is something. And by extension, we have a massive international cabal of sex predators, and we have 2 bodies. one of whom was brutally tortured before we found her.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely not nothing. It's kind of high, honestly. We're talking about an international cabal.
Yeah, absolutely. There are clearly dozens of people who are taken down.
But, like, how many kids did we see get picked up for a date in Tbilisi alone?
Oh, yeah, there's that. Yeah, there's, 3 or 4?
Something like that. One's getting dropped off.
3 or
and another
4
one's
working the street. One's getting dropped off, one's getting picked up, and there's another one who doesn't get picked up with that one.
So, I'm sorry. Okay, so I've never purchased the time of a sex worker. I don't know if that's the right terminology to use. I've never hired a sex worker. Let's put it that way. But were I to hire a sex worker, I don't think I would immediately hire another one after I was dropping off the first one.
Yeah. Maybe German refractory periods are different. Maybe there's something in the water.
I mean, you are traveling across an international border to have this experience, so I get why.
Yeah.
Also,
I mean, I think we've got to go like a 7 or 8 on this?
At least. I mean, there's a lot. A lot of kids have been victimized by this.
Yeah, no, probably a 9.
It's not a 10. I mean, like the number of bodies is reasonably low, right? There's 2.
Sure.
What did we give 10s to? We give 10 to Undercover.
Hooked.
Undercover got a 10. What was Undercover?
Well, yeah, Undercover got a 10 because...
different.
Yeah,
different.
that's Liv is dealing with the fallout of a sexual assault for
forever.
Seasons.
Yeah, for many seasons. Yeah. So, and then we got Disappearing Acts got a 10. That was, I mean, there was like 10 bodies in that we saw. So that makes sense. And we had 10 from Hooked. That was a... Okay, here we get some 9s. Okay, so the 9s are the Hooked and Hunting Ground. Hunting Ground had like 21 bodies, something like that.
I think so. Or I think it was 16.
So it's not a 10. I think an 8, right?
Yeah.
I think an 8 because the last one we did the Sybil Shepherd
because the victims who are exploited, we only really interact with 2 of them. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there are more.
We do get to see that woman try to speak through her superglued shut mouth.
Yeah.
Who we then later find out is she dies. And that's kind of brutal to watch. And we don't even get to really give a shit about her.
And she dies because she's trying to seek out child sex traffickers.
Yeah, and she's killed in the most brutal fashion that I can possibly fucking imagine. Like blood loss.
I think the lighting on fire of the Vic in the open of what, Hate or whatever that episode was.
Yeah, I guess that woman was also raped by a metal pipe. So you're right. She had
and then set ablaze.
I don't know my horse racing terminology, but whatever you call it when you get the twofer, she got the twofer.
The exacta, I think.
The exacta, yeah. Something like that. So how problematic was this episode, Josh? Because we do have one of those signature pro-Nambla rants that gets quite a bit of screen time.
We really have to wallow in dead-eyed Amy's life in that house.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the sex workers on the street in Tbilisi.
Yeah.
And the kid actors who are having to walk down the street or get into cars with Johns.
We also are forced... Yeah, I know. Like, there's a lot of kid actors that
are unwittingly partaking in sex work.
What I want to know is, did they tell their parents what the episode was going to be about before they cast them in this? Or did the parents find out, like, while it was happening, and then they're like, what the fuck, to the casting agent? I wonder how many of those kids kept working. Because honestly, I probably would do it. And then I'd be like, man, I can never tell my kid about this. And he's going to find out.
Nope. CPS will be at your place.
Yeah, no shit. So what did we call that? Oh my God, what was that episode?
Was it Chat Room?
It was Chat Room. Exactly. So which one was Chat Room?
That was the Great Granny Panty Hustle.
Chat Room was the Great Granny Panty Hustle. So we called Chat Room... We gave that a 10. And I think we mostly gave it a 10 because of the
Granny Panty Hustle for starters. But the pedo rant,
there was multiple pro-pedo rants in that one. It was a little bit more pro-pedo than this one. And definitely...
Well, it was also, it's season 1. It's season 1, and the Robert Palm season is also a little dodgier.
Yes.
Generally.
Yeah. I mean, this one was... Elliot straight up tortured a dude. So that's fairly problematic.
There is that also, yeah. I mean, two perps are roughed up. Pedo Stash Ron didn't really get that roughed up.
They were doing a good cop, bad cop routine, and then they got a better AUSA. But Elliot also does wake a guy up with a gun to his face, which that happened to me in the in Czechia. Because I was on a train.
It was still the Czech Republic then.
It was the Czech Republic then. I had like a compartment. I think I was there with my brother, and we were both, somehow nobody else was in the compartment, so we could like stretch out a bit. And I was woken up when we crossed the border with a fucking machine gun pointed at my head, tapping on the window. Probably not as terrifying as having somebody in your bedroom holding a loaded pistol literally to your forehead, but it was still kind of terrifying. Is this an 8?
Yeah, I think it's probably an 8.
It's not as problematic as it gets, but it's definitely pretty fucking problematic.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's just not like delighting in how problematic it is.
I mean, we see an open air child sex market. That's pretty fucking problematic. We see one kid get out of a BMW and another kid immediately get into
It's not an 8.
Pregnant.
It's a 9. It's a 9.
I mean, it's kind of bonkers, right?
It's a 9. Sorry. It's not a 10, but it's a 9.
We learn about Czech freak flags, which are fucking curtain colors.
Yeah.
Do you think the people that lived in those houses on probably Leroy Street in the West Village like changed the colors of their curtains after they watched this episode? They're like, man, I don't want people thinking
the art department did that.
You think they did the curtains? Or you think she just...
They paid a location fee just to change the curtains, I'm sure of it.
Okay. Man, it was blowing my mind how much had to actually be done on that street. Like every car getting moved, every goddamn thing being redone. It's mind-boggling how you can shoot in New York City, honestly.
You know what it would have been cheaper to do? Send Maloney to Prague for 3 days and work with a Czech crew.
Yeah, probably actually would have been cheaper, honestly.
It would have been cheaper.
Yeah.
Because you're only looking at shooting, 8-9 pages there?
Something like that.
You send him with a second unit director and a couple of, like, the keys in certain departments and then just let it happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they could have gotten some beautiful roll on the Charles Bridge, and it'd been great. Maloney would have had the time of his life, I'm sure.
Yep.
So now we kind of take a turn for the less great, I guess, because the guests are not exactly the strong point of this episode. It's not like they're bad.
Yeah, they were fine. And there are a lot of them.
There's a lot of them, but they're not carrying the load.
But we're probably looking at a 3 or 4.
I think it's a 3. They're not carrying the load at all.
Yeah.
I suppose they played Pedos really well, but I don't know. Somehow SVU has a...
Yeah, so good on you guys. They just have a stable of pedos, or pedo passers at least.
They have a stable of pedo passers. They sure do. And then the overall quality. So it's hard to...
It's not great, but it's insane.
This is why...
and it's like fun the whole time.
It's like Haunted. Hot Mike Sandoval comes to the back door, which we gave a really bad score on.
And we should not have.
We should not have, because it's insane in a fun way. But we've been watching these kind of like late season episodes where good means it's actually kind of well done, and bad means it's just boring and uninteresting. Mm-hmm. And this is definitely not either one of those things. It's something else.
I think we're dealing with like a 5 or a 6 here. It's memorable. You're going to remember this episode because Stabler goes to Prague.
He goes to Prague.
And is back in 5 minutes.
And he stands there triumphantly overlooking this bridge. Mm-hmm. And it's clearly green screen, but they don't put it on long enough that you really have to think about it. So what did you say, 5 or 6? I think it's a 6. I think it's a 6. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it's just barely above average.
That makes it a tie score with last week's episode. It's 6.5.
Okay.
Of course, it's kind of coming about that score from a completely different direction.
Yes.
But, it works.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun watching this again. Sometimes I put these episodes on and I kind of like, I'm just going to kind of check out and read my phone, maybe fall asleep.
For sure. The second time is still fun.
Yeah, it didn't happen this time. I stayed up the whole time and then I watched it again and I enjoyed it. But I think we are approaching 2 hours. Josh will eventually need to cut this down to something listenable. And so let's roll the next one.
Cut like a full half hour out of this.
I don't know how you're going to do that, man.
So going over to episode.lol, which was built for this podcast by friend of the pod, Flet.
Nice. Thank you, Flet.
Thanks, Flet. I am spinning the tape. Bill and Ted are hurtling through the tubes of space-time into another episode of SVU that they are going to be forced to watch with us.
Oh, I hate that part.
And we've got Season 16, Episode 7, Chicago crossover.
I don't like the sound of that, Josh.
So, the overview is Sergeant Hank Voigt and detectives Aaron Lindsay and Jay Halstead track a child pornography victim to his last known whereabouts in New York City, where Sergeant Benson and the SVU squad get a new lead. Evidence of a live-streamed pornography club that caters to its subscribers' shocking request. When Lindsay discovers someone from her past is involved, she hopes it will lead them to the site's ringleader, but tensions between Voigt and Benson could threaten the case. So, this is a Chicago PD and Chicago Fire crossover.
It's a 3-episode arc.
It is. I just looked it up, and the Chicago Fire and Chicago PD episodes can be watched on Peacock.
For free. You don't need to have a you don't need
premium.
Yeah.
You'll have commercials, but whatever. Chicago Fire, you're going to be watching the episode Nobody Touches Anything, which is season 3, episode 7. That will then lead into the SVU episode Chicago Crossover, season 16, episode 7. And it will close out with Chicago PD. They'll have to go through me from season 2, episode 7.
I can guarantee you I've never seen this episode. I can guarantee you.
I've seen the SVU episode, but the SVU episode only, so I have no idea what the fuck happens in but the one before or the one after. And at the time, I was like, maybe I should watch the Chicago. And then I was like, nah, I don't need to.
I was just thinking I would be pissed if I were an actor in this SVU because it's probably never on syndication, so they don't get any fucking royalties from it.
So all of the episodes will be in the notes. We'll talk about the other episodes, but Adam's recap will not really be about Chicago Fire or the Chicago PD episode that are tied to this.
My plan is to give a brief overview of what happens, but not to go the blow by blow.
Not the full.
The SVU.
Yeah, sure.
Because I don't know who any of those people are. Okay, so rate and review the pod, please. Visit us on the socials, Munch My Benson, and just keep on munching, guys. We love you.
Munch everyone's Benson.
I'm supposed to be afraid that the American detective will hurt me. You can't. It is against your laws.
Aber wir sind nicht in Amerika, Herr Tassig.
What'd you just say to him?
I merely reminded Mr. Tassig that we were not in America. So perhaps you'd be more inclined to cooperate and stop this ridiculous performance.
You need permission from this bitch?
Come here.
What'd you say to me? Huh? What do we need?
Hi, this little girl. Who is she?
I don't know her. I swear! But I've seen her website.
What website?
It has pictures and video of this girl. It has her name is Amy. That is all I know, I swear.